Dr. Robbie Ludwig, are you buying this? Is she really now the Norma Rae for Matt Lauer accusers?
Well, listen, I'm sure she felt resentful. This may be her moment to be slightly vindictive, but she was in a position where she was powerless compared to Matt Lauer. And she might have had some fantasy that many young girls do when they're in the workplace, that they can meet a powerful, successful man, that they will be the chosen one. So she might have had that wish and went along with it, and it went very bad, which can also happen in the workplace. And she didn't have any support system.
And arguably, at that time, he was the most powerful person on morning television and up until his firing, right?
And she may have had a wish that Matt Lauer chose her and they would have walked off into the sunset. And maybe that was a wish.
He was married at 2 years at the time.
It doesn't matter, right? You have a wish, you have a fantasy, right? When it comes to a crush, people aren't exactly realistic. And maybe she felt, well, this is wrong. This is a secret. And you don't necessarily want to tell somebody you admire, like a Katie Couric, that you're harboring this fantasy that isn't right, that you should feel ashamed about.
Okay, but then why come forward now? What I'm saying is where is personal responsibility in this conversation? You're 24 years old. You're ambitious to know how to get a job on the #1 morning show on the planet. You know how to do that. But then all of a sudden, there's this power dynamic, and she's powerless?
Well, I think there's being intelligent when it comes to getting a job, and then there's kind of social, emotional intelligence. And what can happen is you live with something you feel ashamed about, and then it finds a cultural moment where you can talk about it, or maybe you can even understand it in a way that you could not before. So now we are really providing women with a cultural script and narrative to describe a story that they might have been living with that they couldn't do before or didn't want to do before. I think what happened here is that she wanted it to be legitimate, and she wasn't mature enough to have the wherewithal to say, this man is more powerful to me than me. Maybe it's not legitimate. Maybe he's just using me. Maybe I'm just his fancy for the week. And so it's a combination of factors. But what can happen is that when somebody is powerful and you are young and naive, you really don't know. So you make a decision based on sexual attraction that isn't in your best interest, socially, emotionally, or in terms of your work history. And that could have happened here. This is a cautionary tale, so just understand even now, if you go into a consensual relationship with somebody who is a boss or somebody you work with, it can end very badly, and you need to know that.
Robbie, I wanted to ask you, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, she kept mentioning this term, abuse of power. Is this a clinical term? Because I've never heard it before.
Well, as therapists, you're always in a position of power. So any patient that comes in is kind of always your patient. Whether you see them at a party or they terminate treatment, you can't then say, oh, they're no longer my patient anymore, I can date you. The same with a teacher. So there are certain positions of power that can render who works around you not having the same power, and therefore they're not in an equal place to make a decision. So it's not equal. So yeah, she could say that and be right.
Bonnie Fuller, Stacey Honowitz, Robbie Ludwig, John Escobar, thank you all so much.